Welcome back to Cinemax. Today we are breaking down one of the greatest psychological thrillers ever made. This is Shutter Island, directed by Martin Scorsese, released in 2010 and starring Leonardo DiCaprio. This movie has one of the most jaw-dropping twists in cinema history, and we are going to walk through every single detail from the very beginning to the very end and explain exactly what is happening and why. So let us get into it. The movie opens in 1954. We are on a boat crossing a foggy, dark ocean. Two men are on board. The first is a United States Marshal named Teddy Daniels, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. The second is his partner, a Marshal named Chuck Owl. They are traveling to a remote island off the coast of Massachusetts called Shutter Island. On this island sits a hospital for the criminally insane called Ashcliffe Hospital. This is a place where the most dangerous and mentally disturbed criminals in the country are kept locked away. Teddy and Chuck have been sent to Ashcliffe to investigate the disappearance of a patient named Rachel Solando. Rachel was convicted of drowning her 3 children in a lake. She was locked inside a room with no way out, no windows that could be opened, no hidden exits. And yet, somehow she vanished completely. The doctors and guards have no explanation. So the two marshals are here to figure out what happened. When they arrive on the island, Teddy and Chuck are immediately treated with suspicion. The head of the hospital, Dr. John Corley, is polite but clearly guarded. He only gives them limited access to patient files and staff. He does not seem particularly concerned about finding Rachel. Teddy notices this right away, and it bothers him. As Teddy walks around the island and the hospital, he starts having severe headaches and vivid dreams at night. These dreams are about his late wife, Dolores. She appears to him in his sleep, looking beautiful, but also wet, like she just came out of water. She speaks to him, tells him she misses him, and then she falls apart in his arms, turning to ash. These dreams feel extremely real to Teddy and deeply painful. We learn through these flashbacks that Dolores died in a fire in their apartment building. An arsonist named Andrew Laedis set fire to the building, and Dolores died as a result. Teddy blames himself for not being there when it happened. He has been carrying enormous guilt ever since. And he believes that the man responsible, Andrew Laedis, is somewhere on Shutter Island as a patient. This is another reason Teddy wanted this assignment. He is not just here to find Rachel Solando. He is here to find the man who killed his wife. Teddy and Chuck begin interviewing patients and staff. The more they dig, the more suspicious everything feels. A patient named George Noyce, who Teddy knew from outside the island, managed to pass him a secret note before they even arrived. The note said just one word: run. When they finally get to talk to the patients on the ward, one of them whispers something unexpected to Teddy. She writes the name Andrew Laedis on a piece of paper and then writes the number 67. She seems to be saying that Andrew Laedis is the 67th patient at Ashcliffe. But when Teddy checks the patient logs, there is no 67th patient listed. There are only 66 patients. And there is no record of Andrew Laedis being at the hospital at all. Teddy becomes more and more convinced that something sinister is happening at Ashcliffe. He believes the hospital is using patients as subjects for illegal experiments. He thinks they are performing brain surgery and drug testing on patients without consent, turning them into something less than human. He also suspects that the island is being used to hide things, to make people disappear without a trace. A massive hurricane hits the island that night. The power goes out, fences are damaged. In the chaos, several patients escape their cells. Teddy and Chuck help round them up. But what Teddy sees during this chaos only deepens his suspicion. The staff seems more interested in controlling information than in finding Rachel or securing the patients. The next day, Rachel Solando reappears. She is found in the woods near the shore, completely calm and acting as if she never left. She says she has no memory of how she got outside or where she was. Dr. Corley tells Teddy and Chuck that the case is essentially closed now that Rachel is back and that they should prepare to leave the island. But Teddy refuses to go. He tells Chuck that he thinks they are being manipulated. He thinks Rachel's sudden reappearance is staged. He thinks the whole situation is designed to make them leave before they can discover what is really going on inside the hospital. Teddy then tells Chuck something he has been holding back. He explains that he did not come to Shutter Island just for the missing patient case. He came because he has been investigating Ashcliffe for 2 years. He believes that people are being brought to this island, experimented on, and then disappearing forever. He thinks that is what happened to someone he knew from his past, and he believes that Andrew Ledis, the man who killed his wife, is somewhere on this island hidden under a false identity. Chuck agrees to stay and help him keep digging. They sneak into a restricted area of the hospital called Ward C, where the most dangerous patients are kept. Inside they find George Noyce, the same man who sent Teddy the note. But George is in a terrible state. He is bruised and beaten. When Teddy asks him what happened, George says Teddy did this to him, that Teddy attacked him in a rage during a previous visit. Teddy does not remember this at all. He assumes George has been harmed by the staff and is confused. George also tells Teddy something important. He says that everything on this island is a game designed specifically for Teddy. He says there is no conspiracy, no experiments, no sinister government program. He says the game is all about Teddy and that the other patients and staff are all part of it. And then he says the name Andrew Ledis again. Teddy brushes this off as the ramblings of a disturbed man. Teddy manages to find a woman hiding alone in a sea cave along the cliffs of the island. She is hiding from the doctors and staff. She tells Teddy that her name is Rachel Solando. Not the Rachel that was found in the woods. She says she is the real Rachel Solando. She claims she used to be a psychiatrist who worked at Ashcliffe. She says she discovered what the hospital was doing to patients and tried to report it, so they locked her up and declared her insane to keep her quiet. She warns Teddy not to take any medication that the doctors give him because the medication is designed to keep patients confused and cooperative. Teddy is shaken by what she tells him. He believes her completely. Everything she says fits perfectly with what he has been thinking all along. Later that same night, Teddy realizes he cannot find Chuck anywhere. He searches the entire hospital grounds and Chuck is simply gone. Nobody will tell him where Chuck is. Teddy starts to panic. He believes Chuck has been taken by the doctors and is being held somewhere on the island. He becomes convinced that Chuck has been taken to the lighthouse, a tall stone tower on the far edge of the island that no one is supposed to go near. Teddy decides he is going to reach the lighthouse no matter what. He climbs down the cliffs of the island, risking his life to avoid the guards on the path, and he makes his way along the rocks to the base of the lighthouse. He forces his way inside. Inside the lighthouse, he does not find a secret laboratory. He does not find prisoners or experiments. He finds a simple room, and sitting in the room waiting for him is Dr. Corley. What Dr. Corley tells Teddy next is the moment the entire movie has been building to, and it is the moment that changes everything you thought you understood about the story. Dr. Corley tells Teddy the truth. His name is not Teddy Daniels. His real name is Andrew Ledis. He is not a United States Marshal. He is a patient at Ashcliffe Hospital. He has been a patient there for the past 2 years. He was committed after committing an act of violence that his mind could not process or accept. Andrew, or Teddy as he calls himself, is horrified. He refuses to believe any of it. Dr. Corley continues. He tells Andrew that his wife Dolores did not die in a fire. She was never killed by an arsonist. Dolores suffered from severe mental illness. She struggled with depression and delusions for years. One day, while Andrew was away, Dolores walked their 3 children down to the lake behind their home and drowned them, all 3 of them. When Andrew came home and found what had happened, he was so destroyed by grief and rage that he shot and killed Dolores. He killed his own wife. What happened after that was too much for Andrew's mind to survive. He could not live with the truth, the guilt of leaving his children with a mentally unwell woman, the horror of losing all 3 of his children, the violence he committed against Dolores. It was too much to carry. So his mind created a new story, a new identity, a new life. In this invented life, his wife Dolores died in a fire set by an evil arsonist named Andrew Ledis. The name Ledis is an anagram of his own real name. And the missing patient, Rachel Solando, the woman who drowned her 3 children, is also an invention. Her name is an anagram of Dolores Chanel, which was his wife's name before they married. Every person he believes he has been looking for, every conspiracy he believes he has been uncovering, all of it is a creation of his fractured mind. Even Chuck All, his partner, is not a marshal. Chuck's real name is Dr. Sheehan, and he is Andrew's primary doctor at Ashcliffe. The whole assignment, the investigation, the missing patient, all of it was an elaborate role play created by Dr. Corley and Dr. Sheehan to give Andrew's mind a safe space to work through his delusions. They hoped that by letting him play out his fantasy all the way to its conclusion, his mind might finally break through and accept reality. Dr. Corley explains that Andrew has had these breakthroughs before. He has been told the truth before. He accepts it, he seems to recover. And then, within days or weeks, the delusion comes back and he forgets everything and becomes Teddy Daniels again. This has happened multiple times. The doctors are running out of options. If Andrew cannot accept reality and live in it in a stable way, the hospital will have no choice but to perform a lobotomy on him, a procedure that would essentially erase large parts of who he is in order to stop the dangerous episodes. As Dr. Corley explains all of this, Andrew begins to crack. Memories start breaking through. He sees real images of his children. He sees Dolores not as a woman burned in a fire, but as someone he loved and lost in a far more complicated and painful way. His hands begin to tremble. His whole body shakes. He starts to cry. And then, slowly, he accepts it. Andrew Ledis allows himself to be Andrew Ledis again. He goes back to the hospital. He speaks with Dr. Sheehan, calling him by his real name. He seems calm. He seems present. He seems like a man who finally knows where he is and what he has done. The final scene of the film is deeply quiet and deeply heartbreaking. The next morning, Andrew is sitting outside on the hospital grounds with Dr. Sheehan. They are talking. And then something shifts. Andrew turns to Dr. Sheehan and calls him Chuck. He uses the name from the delusion, not Sheehan, Chuck. Dr. Sheehan exchanges a look with Dr. Corley, who is standing nearby. That look says everything. Andrew is slipping back. The delusion is returning. Within hours or days, he will be fully Teddy Daniels again. And when that happens, there will be nothing left to do. The lobotomy will go ahead. But then Andrew says something that makes the ending one of the most discussed moments in cinema history. He says, which would be worse, to live as a monster or to die as a good man. And then he stands up and he walks willingly toward the hospital staff who are waiting to take him inside for the procedure. The question here is whether Andrew is truly slipping back into his delusion or whether he is making a conscious choice. He knows what the lobotomy means. He knows it will take away large parts of who he is, and he is choosing it anyway. Because if he continues to live as Andrew Laedis, the man who left his children with a dangerous woman, the man who then killed his wife, the man whose failure caused the death of 3 innocent children, that is a monster in his own eyes. He cannot live as that man. But if he submits to the procedure and becomes Teddy Daniels one last time, going out as the hero of his own story, then in some sense, he dies as a good man. A marshal, a war hero, a husband trying to find justice. He is choosing which version of himself to be at the end. Whether that makes you sad or gives you a strange kind of peace depends on how you look at it, and the movie leaves that completely up to you. Now let us talk about what this film is really about underneath the story. Shutter Island is about the unbearable weight of guilt and grief. Andrew Ledis is not a villain. He is a man who was broken by loss so complete that his mind chose to disappear into a fantasy rather than face it. His delusion was not random. It was carefully constructed by his own unconscious to protect him from a truth too painful to carry. Everything in the delusion is connected to the real trauma. Rachel Solando drowns her children because Dolores drowned his children. He chases Andrew Ledis because Andrew Ledis is himself, and his guilt is always chasing him. His wife Dolores appears in his dreams looking wet because of how she really died. His mind hides the truth in plain sight, but disguises it just enough that he cannot quite see it directly. The movie is also about how far the human mind will go to protect itself. We do not always grieve in obvious ways. Sometimes the mind builds entire worlds rather than sit with an unbearable feeling. And sometimes it takes something as elaborate as what Dr. Corley organized to break through those walls. The performance by Leonardo DiCaprio is extraordinary. He plays Teddy as completely believable in every scene. You never suspect he might be the patient rather than the investigator. And that is the genius of the film. You go through the entire story believing exactly what Teddy believes, right up until the moment the floor falls out from under both of you at the same time. Martin Scorsese made a film that works on 2 levels at once. The first time you watch it, it is a tense and creepy conspiracy thriller set in a terrifying hospital. The second time you watch it, knowing the truth, every single detail reveals itself differently. The looks on the doctors' faces, the way the patients respond to Teddy. The things people say that did not quite make sense before. It becomes a completely different film on rewatch. and that is a rare and beautiful thing. Shutter Island is a movie about a man who built an entire world inside his head to avoid the most painful truth of his life. And in the end, he chose to stay inside that world one last time, rather than face the man he really was. Whether that is weakness or courage or something in between is the question the movie never answers for you. It just asks it, and then it lets you carry the answer home. That is Shutter Island, one of the most brilliant and haunting films ever made. That is it for today's recap here on Cinemax. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. We will see you in the next one.